This meeting is being live streamed. Every time Zoom puts something new on, we are live on YouTube. Hi, good morning. Happy Sunday. How are you?
I am good. How are you, Lucas?
I'm doing great. As you know, like last week was quite the journey, and then this week's been really good. It's been really good.
Yes. By the way, hi everyone. Happy Sunday.
Hello, everyone. You know, the suggestion of getting back into meditation was everything. It was everything. It melted. It got the flow moving again. Yes. And here we are for another beautiful live to showcase to the world.
Yes, and today we're having a really, really nice topic, which is that everything in this world has two sides. And we're going to talk about how we can stay aligned and centered in a world of polarity, in a world that is like a storm, and we want to find the stillness from within. So we're going to talk about duality and polarity and how to stay aligned to your higher self when it's pulling and tugging in all directions. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Same. I mean, it could not be more applicable to what's going on in this world, because it does seem like everything's getting forced to polarity. But this topic can be so important to detaching from either of those currents that just call for every ounce of our energy and our attention and the stand within us and to be the observer, which is so often what you talk about. It's going to be really important for people to understand, come away from today of understanding the observer and not the raft rider on the currents of some river that people are like, come on, you're like, I don't know what's down there, but they're like, let's keep going. We don't want to do that.
Yes. No, it has to do with understanding where to find the stillness, because if we're constantly in motion, it becomes painful. So we need to know how to pull back. And even though meditation is such a beautiful way of centering yourself, what I want us to do is to explore how we can do that on a daily basis in every now and moment, because you can sit in meditation and you can find the stillness, and then the world starts again. So you're in stillness and then you're in the movement, and it's painful to go from the stillness into the movement, and it pulls you back into the pain again. So what I want us to do is to become aware of the observer wherever we are. To know that the observer within us is always on, and to connect to the observer, not to fall asleep and, jump into the movement unless we want to become more aware of what it is that we are focusing on, and if we want the movement or not, because there is always a choice in this.
Yes.
We live in a world of polarity. There is nothing that isn't dual in this world. If we look at it from a perspective, like, I'll give you an example, cold and hot. We would say that cold is different from hot, but it actually isn't. It's one and the same thing. It's just a question of the gradient or the degree of coldness or hotness in it. So cold and hot is one and the same thing. Stillness and movement is one and the same thing. It's just an extreme of one and the same thing. Just knowing that can keep us centered, because we know that if I can shift from love to hate, or from stillness to movement and back again, it means that it's the same thing. We don't have to jump out of it. We can stay in it and either raise the frequency or awareness. It's a question of raising, tuning in all the time. It's not a question of jumping outside, and jumping back in, because it's painful to do so. But if we understand the true nature of this reality, where this polarity is almost like an illusion, because its extremes always meet each other. So this is why genius and insanity is very close, because it's two extremes and they're always meeting each other. The same thing goes with hot and cold, love and fear or hate or whatever it is. The extremes of this always meet. The stillness and movement are also the same thing. So if we understand that it's only the gradient, then we also know how to dial up or dial down this.
Right.
And it's important to understand that it is one and the same thing. This is why I think we tap into the world being an illusion. It is an illusion because it's made of the same essence. And we create the polarities, we create the dualism here, because we are actually here to explore that dualism. We are here to explore the polarity. We're here to explore the negativity so that we can use it as a contrast to what it is we actually do want to explore. If we don't have darkness, then how would you know what light is?
Right.
So it's a way of creating this reality, but I think we fall asleep to that notion that we're actually creating it. So we think that there is a separation between the two when there isn't. In reality, there isn't.
Right. When I was growing up in a very staunch Christian home, I grew up with the viewpoint of I am to live black and white in a gray world, that the world is compromised, the world is relative, and that I am black and white. I am going to be walking holiness and purity and all these things, and then everything else is a not of me. And I tried to keep it one side. And life humbled me, and life happened, and I grew older and different perspective. And I gave this keynote talk probably 5 or 6 years ago, of actually I'm to live gray in a black and white world, meaning there are polarities, and yes, they do match, but I'm never a polarity. I'm never one or the other. I'm the gray matter observer. Like, that's why I like the brain's gray. Like, I'm the observer of this, and I can choose which side I want to explore. Do I want to go down the light path or dark path? But to claim that I am the polarity is not only an illusion to myself, but also missing out on the contrast of what makes one beneficial or more enjoyable than the other. I would not have any gratitude, which I didn't for so long. I didn't live with gratitude. So I think this understanding of detaching and observing brings so much gratitude, because this is a game. This reality is something for us to play with and have fun with, not perform in for whatever desire someone else has placed upon us.
Absolutely. I love how you said that you are not the polarity. You can never be the polarity.
Right.
Because the polarity in stillness and movement is that there is a stillness, an observer of the movement on the outside. And the stillness, well, you can ask yourself, where can I find this stillness? How can I find this stillness? And the stillness is always within each and every one of us. This is our true nature, that stillness. And this true nature, this stillness, is here to observe the movement, the illusion of movement. This polarity to the stillness is the movement, and we're here to explore the movement. What we forget is that we are the stillness, and the movement is always changing, always moving. And we are choosing the choice to choose the middle way, for instance, to say, I am not black, I am not white, I am in the middle of this. I am not hate, I am not love, I am in the middle of this. I'm the observer of this. And then you look at things and you make a conscious choice what it is that you want to explore. Because an increase in one of these states leads to a decrease in the other. So if you choose to be love, then you know that the hate will be decreased. That's the polarity in this. It's the gradient where you position yourself in that, your perspective on things. It changes. And this is why the world changes when you change, because your perspective is different. And when you focus on one of the polarities, the other one must reside. It must pull back. It cannot be the same. It cannot be exactly the same. And it's within you. That is where the choice is always made. And this is why I want us to remember this in every now moment, that there is a choice, that there is a stillness, and that you can always push back. You don't need to meditate for 15 minutes to realize this stillness. It is there in a split second. If you evoke it, if you say, wait, you just need to say, wait, and pull back a little bit, and that is where it is. I'll have to read a quote by Franz Kafka, which I really love, because it talks about the stillness and where is it to be found. And here's what he says. He says, "You need not leave your room, remain sitting at your table and listen. You need not even listen, simply wait. You need not even wait, just learn to be quiet and still and solitary. The world will freely offer itself to you. To be unmasked, it has no choice. It will roll in ecstasy at your feet." So this is where this stillness, where you have the choice, where you can look at the polarity and choose if you want to go left or right, plus or minus, light or dark, or in between. And it becomes more conscious. The more conscious you are of this stillness, the less this pendulum will go from negative to positive to negative to positive, because you go higher and the chain of that pendulum becomes shorter and shorter. That's why it's not moving as much.
So
So you
good.
become, yes, you become more still.
Yeah.
So you can see the polarity. This world, as the shadows here, we can't escape it. So there is a polarity. And the meaning of this polarity is for us to choose. But if we, as you say, believe that we are the polarity, then this pendulum is going back and forth, and you cannot, it's too much movement. And this is where the pain of being human is created there, because we are not connected to the divine aspect of who we are. The more we are connected to that divine aspect of who we are, the less this pendulum goes back and forth, plus and minus, and the more balanced we are, and the less pain we experience, because it's the back and forth that creates the pain within us.
Such a great analogy. I love that, because if we're staying in the fulcrum point, that center point where that hinges, then there is no movement. Maybe slight variation of the, I'm seeing like two strings or two, I don't know, pieces of wire holding tight. There's nothing to move.
Let me see if I can show you this. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yes.
Can you see?
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
And the higher the consciousness, meaning the higher the frequency, the closer to your soul, the more aligned you are, the shorter this chain is, and it doesn't swing as much. So this is why I talk so much about knowing who you are, because you become aware of you being the observer of the polarity in the physical world. By the way, this polarity is the wave particle dilemma. That is the polarity too. It's either a particle being matter, or it's a wave being energy. But it's one and the same thing. It's created in one of the same things. So you're still, it's like everything, it's set up to have this polarity in it. We cannot explore this reality unless we explore the polarity of it. But to ease the pain from that is to be very, very aligned to who you are, and not allow the pendulum to pull you into this illusion that you are the polarity, because you're not.
That's the biggest thing. That is it.
Yes.
It's I'm reminded. So in the book of Genesis, it says the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And Genesis 1:3 says, and God said, let there be light. And there was light. Mm-hmm. God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Right away, he creates the polarity. But then he puts, in Genesis, he puts man inside this polarity and just tells man to tend the garden. He doesn't say, advance the light. He doesn't say run from the darkness. He just says, tend this garden, like be the observer, be the cultivator of this realm with the dualities. And this is such a beautiful thing. Without the contrast, we would not be able to be truly have gratitude for the other. Had I not known pain, the pain that I've gone through, I would not know the healing that is on the other side. Had I not known that immense fear, I wouldn't know the immense love that is on the other side. Had I not known one, I would not know the other. And I think so many people, when they are stuck in thinking they are the polarity, miss the incredible tidal wave of beauty on the other side of that polarity, that we can be free to choose the opposite of what causes us pain. When we go back up, and stay in that observer.
Yeah, because when you're in the observer, which means that there is stillness, and I talk so much about this stillness, I almost feel like I need to kind of define it a little bit. It's not just physical stillness. I'm talking about mental stillness, emotional stillness, spiritual stillness, just stillness, observing and looking. When we can be in that observer mode, we can see both sides. We can choose to judge, but we can choose not to judge. We can choose just to see it for what it is. And that's where the power is, because if you are not reacting, then you're not pushing anything in the movement, and you can stay still. And I'm not saying that we should never react or act or be in the movement, because this is what we are here to explore. We are here to explore the movement. We are here to explore pain and joy and love. And as you say, if you've experienced pain, then you know how joy and love tastes. Really, it kind of heightens everything. So this is why we are here to explore this. But if we forget that there is a place where there is stillness and no pain, where you can sit and just see things arise and go back, like the sea, you know, the waves coming in and going, the same thing when you meditate and you sit in this stillness. Or, as I say, in any moment of your day, you can be aware of the observer and just see things arise and then go back to where they came from. We will be in pain always if we are not able to do this.
Yes.
It's about remembering that this place of stillness, this power place, is within me always. There is I can't find it anywhere else. It can only be found within. So just knowing that anything, all the opposites, all the things that are going on, can be quietened down when you find this stillness and align. And it takes a few seconds to do so. Just breathing in and breathing out and saying, it's okay. This too shall pass is such a beautiful sentence to say when you are breathing in and out, if you're overwhelmed by things. Because we have to remember that the frequency that we're setting within us, when we say this too shall pass, it is okay, is changing whatever is passing. It is changing that, because the formless field, the formless intelligent field, taps into the frequency. So if you think that you're the polarity, the formless field will give you just one side to explore, because that's what you're asking for. But if you say, no, wait, I can see both sides, it will give you an opportunity to look at both sides and then make a conscious choice, not an unconscious, subconscious, reaction mode, ego choice.
So good.
I know it's easy when you can see it.
Yeah.
It's tough to do it when this motion pulls you in and you think that you're the waves, you're not the ocean.
Right.
So waking yourself up every time you feel like, oh, I feel like there's no choice. Know that you are in the movement. If you feel like there's no choice, then you're in the movement. There's always a choice, at least one choice, two choices, at least two choices. But there are so many more choices. But you need to stand in that crossroad where you know that there are two choices at least, because there are two sides to everything. There's always darkness and light, and there in between lies a lot of other choices.
Michael Singer wrote the book The Untethered Soul, and he has a really good analogy.
I love that book. Yeah,
it's a good book. And it's he has the analogy that if you're in a movie theater and you're watching the movie and you forget that you're in a movie theater, it's easy.
Yes.
That's what movies are designed to do, is capture your attention. But when someone sneezes to the right of you or coughs and you're like, oh, I'm in a movie theater watching with a whole bunch of other strangers a movie, he said that's how we can break our attention to breathe and be the awareness of, I am choosing this, I am watching this, but I'm the one observing that I am watching this. I am not the one watching this. I am the one aware of the process or aware of the action, but I am not the action. I always picture it behind when I meditate, the observer is back further in my head. I always felt like back here versus up here and like third eye and the pineal gland. Like mine's like, I don't know. But anyway, that helps me detach and see. And if you think of that analogy, everyone listening, like the movie is, you are powerless. If you're in the movie's going to keep going, and it's already designed to keep going with all its ups and downs and turns and twists. And as much as that can be fun, if you know you're intentionally choosing that to get on the roller coaster and let it take you where it wants, if we are living life that way, our anxiety will be through the roof, our anger, our stress, our trying to control this. And the truth is, we don't have to be in a current that is not of our own choosing.
Absolutely. It's a question of always recognizing this observer within you, to understand that, I mean, for me, it was such an aha moment to understand that I'm not my emotions, that I'm not my feelings. I think I was in my mid 30s when I realized this. And that came as a shock to me, because I don't know what it was, but I was so identified with my emotions, and it's probably something with my past, and that I've always been in my emotions, so to speak. So they became a part of my nature. This is how I felt. I am no one without my emotions. And I thought of it as, of course I am my emotions. What would I be otherwise? Well, I'm not. I'm actually the one observing the feelings. The feelings are movement, which I am choosing, but I did not know that I was choosing them. It felt like they were a part of me. They were just there and I couldn't stop them. So I had to explore the emotions. I don't have to explore anything. I can go back into this place where you said in the back of my head. For me, it's a little bit closer. It's in the center of my head and it goes straight up like this. There's no boundaries between, there's no skull here. It goes straight up. That's how I feel the observer is. It's like it's almost like looking down from a balcony or something. That's where I am with this. I'm kind of hovering over myself when I'm in observer mode, and just realizing this, that I am not my emotions. I'm using them as a tool here. I can shift them. Some emotions are harder to detach from. Even if I am in observer mode, it feels like, oh, I have to go there. It pushes me and pulls me. Like if something is not okay with my son, which is, there is love there, but there's also fear. Like the opposite of love is this fear. So I'm going back and forth there. And I need to balance myself in the middle somewhere to be able to see. And when I'm balanced there, then I can help him. I cannot help him if I am in fear or if I am in total love and I can't do anything. I need to be in this observer mode. So detaching from certain feelings is tougher than detaching from other feelings, and detaching from what other people do to you. If they're close to you, then it's harder to detach from it. But still, being in this observer mode gives you an opportunity to reset your own frequency, and by that, change the outcome of everything around you. Also, when we are in observer mode, we create space for others to wake up from the dream. because we are not pushing the waves, we are not pulling and tugging. We stand still and we say, I see what you're going through.
Yeah.
Just as a witness, we become almost as a witness to their observer so that they can wake the observer up within them without doing anything, just being there and seeing everything that is there without reacting to it. It's like everyone is pushing the buttons, and you just stay calm and look at the buttons, look at the lights going there, look at the waves, and leaving it as it is, just staying in that stillness, looking at it. That's such a powerful place to be. Really, it is.
If being in that place and being a contrast, when some people don't want the contrast, if they're in heavy emotion in that state, if they are their emotion, they don't want the contrast, because usually what is it? People like to commiserate with each other. I forget I don't know what the saying is, but if someone's in a bad mood, they want other people to be in a bad mood and like all commiserate together.
Yeah.
They don't like the contrast. However, the contrast, thank God for that, because, and had I not seen the contrast, I would have no hope.
Yes.
I would have no way to know, is this all that is? If this is all that is, this is hell. However, I can experience hell to really be a gratitude and grateful for heaven. And I had someone troll me this morning. I had this post about sovereignty, and they said the sovereignty movement is anti-government. I thought, that's so fascinating. No, it's not. It's wouldn't you be a better citizen in the government if you're a sovereign? Like, well, it doesn't have to be this. That was, I don't know, probably was a bot. But it had me thinking, like, what an interesting thing. Like, would we not want contrast? I'm thankful that I can look back in my life and there's always been a contrast. And when I was in deep pain, I didn't want to see them, or I was angry at them. I used to be so angry at the person. I'd be like, how you doing? Like, doing great, loving life. And I'm like, you don't know what I've gone through. You don't know what I'm going through. And now I'm the one saying, people are like, how you doing? I'm like, doing great. Like, because I am, because I think that comes with maturity, time, and wisdom. But it's also not necessarily that case. It just is the person to say, there has to be, if I am in one, there has to be an opposite. So what is the opposite in this situation? And the only way to get to that place is to be the observer and the questioner, and to breathe and take a pause. And because everything else is a heavy vibration, and sometimes that vibration is so dense and heavy that it's incredibly hard to move out into the stillness and observe without a contrast, without someone else saying, hey, you can, are you done? You want to, come on, let me just hug you,
Exactly. The contrast is there to show you what you're not. And it is for you to acknowledge that, okay, I am not this, so what am I? Instead of staying in that negative space where you're exploring what you're not, you say, okay, so what am I? For me, for instance, since I had a father who was really dominating every aspect of my life, and he was behaving in a way which I despised that while I was living there. I really had nothing. I couldn't identify myself with his way of being, but this gave me a contrast, so that when I was looking for someone to share my life with, I knew exactly what I didn't want, which means that I was very clear on what I wanted. So it gave me a tool to understand what is it that I actually do want in this reality. And it's really important to go from, okay, I don't want this, to say, okay, so what do I want? Because that's how you literally go from one side of that same spectrum to the other side, by asking, what do I want? What is it that I want to create here? What is it that I want to explore? So let's say that having a dominating father, I would say, I want a boyfriend who will see me for who I am and not try to dominate me, who is kind and open-hearted, who is going to be there for me, not control me. So I knew exactly, it was really like using it as a map of what I did want instead. So in a way, I could say thank you so much because it defined it so perfectly. And there he was, perfect in a sense, exactly the way I imagined it. But I wouldn't be able to do that. I would have to try, error, 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 try again until I found what was right for me. This way, I knew exactly what I wanted. And it just popped up in my reality. So if we can learn how to use that contrast, then it's very beneficial to have had it there. That's what the contrast actually is here, because as I say, we can't escape this. There is no movement without the stillness. There is no light without the darkness. There is no you without me. It's always something. It's in relationship to something else. Always, nothing exists of its in itself by itself in this reality. It's always in contrast to something else. That's what the yin and yang is here. That's what the duality or the polarity is about here, to understand that you can't separate those two. You can't say, I'm going to be happy for the rest of my life, period, and nothing bad is going to happen. It's impossible, because in this reality, there are equal amount of pluses as there are minuses. There is equal amount of negative stuff as there is positive stuff. And if we look at it this way, every growth in consciousness, it's like breathing in and out. Our lungs or our subconscious mind or the divine part of us knows that if you breathe in, you will breathe in carbon dioxide and you will breathe in oxygen. And your body knows how to keep the oxygen and release the carbon dioxide. It knows, you don't have to do anything. It knows what to do with it. Well, it's the same thing when you grow in consciousness. It's like a breath. You will get the equal amount of positive and negative. And the more conscious you are, the more of positive and negative stuff you're going to get into you, so to speak. Your thing to use your free will and the observer in you is to say, there's the negative things and there's the positive things. I'll release that and keep this. Just like oxygen and carbon dioxide, exactly the same thing. Only you need to be aware. Your body will do it for you when it comes to breathing. But growing in consciousness, you have to be aware of it. You are the one choosing it. So equal amount, looking, observer, choosing this or that. Sometimes we choose the negative things because we know that somewhere we need to go through this in order to explore bliss, for instance. So we can choose it. But if we are not aware of the choice, then we think that that is what it is. It's only negative. There is nothing positive in this. Or there's no pluses, only minuses everywhere. Wherever I look, there's minuses. And that's not the truth, because they're equal amount, as I say. Polarity, perfectly matched polarity.
We can't have the expansion without the constriction. And I look at jellyfish. Jellyfish they're always moving forward in that constriction, expansion, constriction, expansion. That's how they move forward. This is how we move forward. This is how we ascend. And this, I want to reiterate for everyone listening, if you get to that place of bliss or happiness and you say, like Gordana just said, I'm going to be happy the rest of my life, that's saying that you are a polarity. And you're trying to control something that you are not asked to control, can control, or even need to control. Your job in that happiness is truly to find the gratitude. And I think gratitude can only come from understanding polarity. It's the place of wow. And even if we go into a negative space, in that negative space, I was thinking while you were talking about who you wanted as a partner in life and you knew the attributes, I was like, that's so interesting. I never thought that way. I grew up and I said, I did not want to be like him at all, but I just kept it in that. I never thought what I wanted to be like.
Yes.
And I wish someone would have said to me yes, don't be like him. And
How do you want
how
to
do
be?
you want to
Yes.
be? Because I was
Yes.
so stuck in that, and it caused a lot. I went into dark times, dark spaces, and it's so beautiful. Like, what do you want? When I went to that emotional intelligence program back in 2018, one of the exercises, you partner with someone and they rapid fire ask you, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And they just keep asking you, what do you want? And you need to answer. And I'm like, And it was so hard to say what I want. And they say, when someone says, I don't know, so that's not the truth. They're lying to themselves. You do know, you're just afraid to actually take the pause and then say. And I was like, that's a fascinating thing, because for so long I'm like, I don't know. But when someone said, what do you want? I want freedom. I want love and beauty and goodness and truth and abundance and sovereignty and like healing. I want all these things. Once I could see that, I'm like, I have children now. Everything opened up, everything in my life, because I saw the contrast. I wasn't just in the darkness.
Yes, using it as a tool to sharpen your own vision and what it is that you actually do want in this reality. We're not taught this in school. They don't ask you what you want. They tell you what to do. It's the same thing when you come from an abusive home. You will not ask yourself, what do I want? You know that you don't want pain. I mean, that's where you say, I don't want pain, but you never say, what is it that I want? For me, I usually say this, I was happy when I could dodge fear. I didn't understand that I needed to actively look for joy.
Right.
I was happy and joyous because I dodged fear. And if you never ask yourself, as we are doing here, what is it that I actually do want? As a grown-up, you have to ask yourself this. I used to do these contrast lists, which is really fun to do. You take a piece of paper and you divide it in middle and you write don't want, want. And then you, let's say that you want to meet a new partner or something. Then you go and you write on the side what you don't want in a partner. I don't want him to be slobby. I don't want him to smoke. I don't want it, blah, blah, whatever it is. And then before you end this game, you have to go and every statement you have to ask yourself, so what do I want?
Good. That's so
Every
good.
single statement needs to be
Yes.
in this contrast with what do I want?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want him to be tidy. I want him to be healthy. I want him to, every single statement. And then when you're done, and this is the best part, you take a pair of scissors and then you cut it and you throw away that and keep
Yeah.
the list, because this is
Yes.
ordering. This is an order to the formless field out there. This is what I want. The same thing goes if you want to do it with your work or your career or whatever it is in your life. Doing this contrast list will sharpen your vision of what it is that you want in your life by using this polarity and this clarity in the contrast. You can literally sharpen it and make a conscious choice of what it is that you actually do want to create in your reality. And we were talking about how you can't come to a place where you go, okay, so now I'm happy and it's always going to be happiness. You can choose to be happy in every now moment, but you have to be aware of that there will be negativity there. And if you haven't understood this observer position, you will fall into the negativity and you will say, oh no, not again. Why is this always happening to me? Because it's there all the time. Your job is to say, I see you, but no, thank you. And then you choose happiness. You have to actively choose happiness. It doesn't come by itself. You have to choose it. It's the choice. It's the middle way and the choice to be able to see where you are. I mean, everything in our reality looks like this. If you look at a tree, the branches go, it's one branch and then it goes into two and two and two. So it's always like that. This is how our life looks like. We're always on a path and there's always two choices in this path, and it's moving forward. So we're always at the center of this, where there is a choice to be made. Some choices are easy, some are not easy. Some choices need more time, other choices are instant. But still, the key word is choice. So understanding this power position of stillness, observer position, and choice is actually what it is. And it's, as I say, it's good to meditate, but this is something that we do in every now moment. Become more aware of that.
There's an old saying I'm just reminded of. I don't know who said it. I've quoted it before. I think it was an old rabbi, but he said, may we all be counted as hypocrites. For may we all strive to be greater than we are, but may none of us claim to be that which we strive for that is the greatest hypocrite of all. Meaning, like, let's all strive to be something that we're not right now, but don't ever claim that you are that which you're striving for, because that's the worst hypocrite of all. And it's something like that. But I think that's the quote. And I've always thought that, like, when I give my I ams, like, I am love, I am safe, I am true, like, I am all my I am statements. Yes, that the trunk is. But if I ever say this branch, I'm going to hold so tightly onto this branch is the truth, that branch will break in a storm out of my control, and then you fall if you're holding on to that. So
yeah, it's a stagnation. It's kind of a death if you're not always aware of that. It will always branch itself all the time, and the choices are always there, so you have to be in it. If you think that you've made one choice and that's it, and now you're going to be happy for the rest of your life, then you have stagnated. It's a stagnation of life force. Life force wants you to make the choices. Life force. And why are you making the choices? Because you have to be reminded of that who you truly are cannot be hurt by anything here. Who you truly are is unconditional love. And you have an opportunity to explore the contrast to that. And you can do that if you wish in this reality. But never, ever forget who you truly are from the beginning, so to speak. That's the whole point of this game. Why would you not play it if you're aware of who you truly are, if you're aware of your choice? You can choose to be angry at your child. You can also choose to look at it and try to understand what it is doing. There is a choice here.
Yes.
You can choose to be cross at your partner, saying that stupid person doesn't understand anything, but you can also choose to see it from a different perspective, looking at there's pain here. They're making choices from a pain position. How can I ease that instead? There are so many ways of doing this observer thing in every now moment. And anytime we are experiencing separation or pain, it is a signal that we need to align and make a choice which is aligned with love and unconditional understanding in this stillness. And if we truly are in the stillness, then we can see the true nature of this, that it's not just, I hate that person. It's actually, there are so many other things going on there. And you can see the picture. You can see the whole picture when you are in stillness. When you're not, ego will pull us into not understanding what the stillness is. It will pull us into the motion. It will pull us into the chaos, because that is where ego thrives. So we have to make conscious choice of not choosing from ego, but being more soul-centered all the time. And if it's not stillness within you, then it's not soul, it's ego doing this.
Right.
So when it's not ego, it is when you're still and you can observe without judging everything that you see in front of you. If you're judging it, then you're looking at it from a perspective that is made by the ego, and it's not the stillness, and it's not the observer within you. It's ego looking. The observer is always neutral. The observer will see things and say, I can see it, and just be in it. Allow it to be what it is without doing anything. Sometimes you need to do stuff, but it's a good place to be when you don't know what to do.
So interesting. We just did a road trip, as you know, drove to Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons in Wyoming. But we crossed over the continental divide in the United States. And what that is on one side, rivers flow going east, and on the west side, they flow to the Pacific Ocean. So it's one of the highest points, passes anyway you can drive through. So we're at 10,000 feet driving, and water split. And it's very similar to that fulcrum point, that pendulum that you drove. Like at the top, waters will go either way. We can choose to go down one side, we can choose to go down the other, or we can stay in that space where it's the middle, it's the neutral. And I think for me, when I used to hear come at it with neutrality, like come at it from a neutral place. Well, when I was in fear, ego, I didn't want to hear about coming at it from neutral, because the ego just wants to be right. So just tell me I'm right. But do you want to be right, or do you want to be whole? Do you want to be right, or do you want to be free? Do you want to be right, or you want to be a sovereign being? And so this concept is so important. It's lacking. Now that I'm thinking about this, the polarity, the contrast, without it, we become almost emotional slaves to predetermined forces.
Yes, absolutely, because we're reacting to something on the outside. We do not know how to focus our own stillness within us and not react. It's not about not living, because living means that you're making choices. What we're talking about here is to be conscious of the choices that you're making, not feeling like you're a slave under someone else's options for you. You have to be aware of this stillness and aware of the choices, and then make conscious choices, looking for the brightest side of everything that comes to you is a choice. It is a conscious choice to say, okay, where's the light here? And you start looking for it. It's the looking, it's the awareness, it's the presence in the now moment that is connected to the stillness and the observer, to realize that you are an observer of this reality, and that there are choices to be made in every now moment if you want to make choices. But you can stay in the stillness too, but it might be dull or not feel like life, because some of us are passionate beings. I am a very passionate being. I have strong emotions about everything. But if I do not recognize myself as the observer of these emotions, as the chooser of what passions I want to explore, then I become the slave under these emotions, because I have no control over them. So they control me instead. And that becomes painful, and it becomes a human or a painful way of being human, because I am not connected to the divinity. When I connect to it, I can choose to explore the passions, and I'll go into it, I explore it, and then I go back to my stillness again and know this was a game. I'm playing this game here. Going back to it and just reminding myself of that there is always stillness within me. I can explore what I want to explore here, and that makes life joyous. If I'm not aware of it, then I feel like it's exploring me or exploiting me almost, with the emotions and me not knowing how to handle stuff. It's not about controlling anything either. When you are in stillness, you don't need to control anything. It just is, and you are, and that's it. So the awareness of the observer within us in every now moment, the awareness of who we truly are and what this world is. It's a world of movement in this duality, and you're the stillness. So you are one with your world. You and your world are one and the same essence, just like hate and love and dark and light and cold and warm.
Yes.
It's a gradient between them. So when you are in stillness, you're actually in one of the polarities. And then you go into movement and you choose how much of the movement you want to explore. But you have to be aware of that you're in the movement, that you're not the movement. You're in it, and then you go back.
That's right.
And that's where this pendulum goes. Yeah.
Also, what's coming up is the bell curve. And the bell curve, 20% is at the bottom, the early adopters. They say like 7% are early adopters to anything. Some new technology comes out, they're going to buy it, they want to test it out. Then 13% are early in that movement, but they wait for the early adopters. Then 60% sits in that bell curve or the middle part. And some are focused one way, some are focused the other, and then the tail end. And if you look at that, when we look at that, really human behavior on a collective scale of observing how we all operate, when we choose one polarity, like when we choose to stay in gratitude and joy and beauty and abundance in life, there will be less in that tail, but that doesn't mean that it's any less valuable, meaning it's not the quantity of those. If we're like, why, I don't see anyone else that's choosing this, well, it's okay. It's to honor our decision and our journey of where we are right now, because when we go into that early adopter, to keep this analogy going, when we choose to live in love and light and beauty and goodness and truth and wonder and observation and exploration, well, the people that are in the middle and that 60% that it's like this tug of war, say, oh, well, if they can do it, let me go slide down. I can do that too. And so when we look for quantity of others affirming our decisions, we'll miss out the opportunity that we are the permission for other people to come out and play as well.
Absolutely. And it's also a question of recognizing yourself as the creator of your own world. It doesn't matter how many people are doing this, as long as you are doing this. So the more, the merrier. The more, the easier, the more, the faster it will be co-created. But if you say no one else is doing it, that's why I won't do it, then you're allowing the outer circumstances to literally create your world, and that's not where we're supposed to be. I mean, my mother-in-law would pray for children and other beings that were not as privileged as everyone else in this world, the grown-ups. She would pray for them, even though no one heard this, no one knew about this, but the frequency came out of her into this physical reality. And I am totally convinced that it changes the overall frequency on Earth. Beautiful. I saw this with her, and I didn't understand that concept before. And I was thinking, why is she doing these things? No one can hear them. Well, it's not about how many can hear it, how many can see it. It's not about the quantity. It's about the quality of the frequency that is going out there. And even if I can't see it, I know that it is changing, because there is a certain frequency that is emanated from Earth, and we live on Earth. So my frequency will be a part of that whole, so to speak. So regardless of what I do, this frequency is heard and seen and expressed in the world. So it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality in what you do. If it is pure and if it comes from your heart and you're sending it out, you're doing great.
So beautiful. It's so beautiful. Every day we are choosing which side of the pendulum we are putting a decision to. Are we going to put more light and tip the scale to light, or we're going to, and it doesn't matter, because that last one, whoever it is going to tip the scale.
Tips the scale. Absolutely. Yeah. And before you know it, you will attract people who do the same thing as you do, who are on the same frequency as you are, who are in gratitude, who are in love, who are in this calmness, and knowing that they're the observer, you attract them to you. And that's how a new world is created. This is why the yin and yang symbol always has, in the black, there's always a white dot, and in the white, there's always a black dot. Well, that little dot is what you're talking about, this thing that creates the movement, the thing that makes it all go around. So creating a new wave by just being more aware of what it is that you're sending out, that's enough. If enough people do that, it shifts without us doing anything more than just that. Taking care of your own frequency, realizing that you are in observer position all the time, knowing who you truly are. And actually, we're going to end this Sunday live with a short little meditation. I don't know if it's time to do that now, but we can.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
All right. So it's just short meditation to focus us on the truth of who we actually are. So I want us all to sit in a comfortable position with a spine straight and open chest, and close our eyes and just breathe. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And put your right hand on your heart. Can you feel how your heart beats? Now take another deep breath in and out with a sigh. Now repeat after me. I am the light in the darkness. I am the love in the hate.
In the love and the hate.
I am the calmness in the storm.
I am the calmness in the storm.
I am the courage in the fear.
I am the courage in the fear.
Now, every time you put your hand on your heart, you're to be reminded of who you truly are. You're the light. You're the love. You're the calmness. And you're the courage. That's your true nature.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. Beautiful.
So anytime we forget and we become part of this polarity, thrown back and forth, that's the storm. You're the eye of the storm. You don't need to go out there. Just pull back, stand in this stillness, and look at the things around you.
It's beautiful.
Choose what you want to explore. Literally choose what you want to explore.
Right. That's right. Thank you. Another
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful live. And everyone, thank you for listening. Terrell and Lantern and Tara, anyone else, thank you. Just blessings to every single one of you. This is exciting. I feel like this is going to move a lot of energy today for people, especially at today's Lionsgate 8-8.
Oh, yes,
portal.
it is.
A lot of energy, and this is very beautiful. So thank you.
It's beautiful. The 8 is like a loop, and it's also the polarity in it. We go in like this.
Right.
Oh, so beautiful.
We can be the observer in the center too,
Yes, it's like the hourglass also. It's like, oh, it's beautiful. And you're the center of all this, exploring all the loops back and forth. So beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We love doing this.
We'll see you next Sunday.